Good morning, good afternoon, and good day, and welcome back to the Parc'd podcast by Parc'd. Today, it is episode Fabio Quattroro. It's episode 20 today. And we have a lot to cover because a lot happened this week. So, we're going to try what we did last week. And we bullet pointed everything. We're going to try and speedrun it. Because I can't remember how long the podcast episode itself was, but we filmed for like 45 minutes. So, and normally we film for like almost 2 hours and I have to crop it down a lot. So, it's currently 12:38 on the clock right now. So let's see where we end up. You see me looking at my phone, it's because we've got bullet points, and the bullet points I've got are on my phone instead of on my computer.
Same for me.
So, this weekend, just gone, we went to Brazil for the Formula 1, my favourite race. We also headed to Malaysia for MotoGP, and we headed to Bahrain for the World Endurance Championships season finale. Also, addressing the elephant in the room here, yes, there is a duo and a trio here. Me and Naomi are matching today. Katie is the odd one out.
This is not intentional. We turned up to film and went,
yeah, literally.
Oh my God.
I was like, I'm gonna chuck this on because nice, warm, cozy vibes. We've been filming Christmas stuff today,
nice.
so like, if you watch like the videos in December and you're like, I remember that outfit from somewhere, it's today. And we both turned our cameras on ready to film. We were like, I was like, Naomi, wait a second, because she turned hers on, so then I turned mine on. And she was like, I don't understand, so I had to turn my light on to show that they're the exact same colour, exact same jumper. We're just so in sync. It's the water sign in us. You're a Cancer, right?
Yeah.
It's the water sign in us. The air signs just don't get it.
There's a lot. This weekend was chaos.
Yeah, so everyone that knows me knows that Brazil is my number one race. Like, I physically have it tattooed on my body. Like, I love Brazil. So, imagine your guys' surprise when you find out the only session I watched this weekend was the race. Barely.
That's disappointing.
I know. The timings and my work schedule just did not line up, and I did not have time to watch everything back before
In
the
your
race.
defense.
Yeah.
In your defense, the schedule changes were dramatic.
Because I was meant to finish work at 4:30. I would have been home for the 5 p.m. race start, and then they moved it to 3:30.
And then we had the restart for 5 p.m. anyway.
Yeah. I literally got home and was like, I texted Celeste and was like, oh, I'm gonna watch just like the beginning bit, like, so like the first couple of laps, then I had to have dinner because my dinner was cooking. And when I texted her that, I was home. She was like, okay. And then when I was like, finally got to the red flag, I was like, oh, I'm at the red flag now. She was like, yeah, that's when you texted me. I was like, that was an hour and a half after the race started. What do you mean you're in the middle of a red flag? Like, what? So, yeah. Flabbergasted. So I didn't watch anything before that. I don't know what happened in the sprint. I don't know what happened in qualifying. I don't know what happened in practice sessions. I do know that Nico Hulkenberg was sick. So got replaced this week. Kevin Magnussen was sick.
That's the one.
Then why did I write?
You're just like, no.
No, it's because I wrote K-Mag crash. So it was Nico Hulkenberg crash.
Yes. On a black flag.
Yeah.
This race weekend, you could write a novel about it.
Oh, literally.
That's fiction. No. Qualifying
I think
itself was its own race. I feel like if you don't watch Formula 1 and like you just came in and watched this race as the first one, you'd be like, what the f*** is going on?
Well, Chloe was saying she's trying to explain it to her grandmother, and she's like, this is not okay. So yeah, I think it was really like, obviously qualifying in the morning was a big step anyway, and I think obviously it changes different things about the tires and everything, but I think we had, I want to say 4 red flags during quali.
5, I counted.
5? Yeah. Yeah. So it was very dramatic, to say the least.
Hang on, let me.
Like, I know we
I
have to
think
give.
it's a lot of people.
I know we have to give big credits to the Williams mechanics for this weekend.
Oh, I feel so bad for them.
Because
and
I know
and
Franco crashed.
Aston mechanics.
The what?
Aston Martin mechanics.
Yeah, because I know Franco crashed. I don't know what session it was.
That was
Q1 or Q2.
Q1.
He crashed. I'm not gonna lie, he did crash a few times this weekend.
Yeah.
But obviously, what we found out prior to the weekend was that unfortunately his grandfather passed away before the weekend, which is so difficult when you're basically coming to almost a home race.
Yeah.
You should. I don't know if you watched. You know, I know you didn't watch all the sessions, but for the people who didn't, the whole crowd were covered in Argentina shirts, Argentina flags, people saying Franco, and I literally was like, this kid is like, I need him in F1 next year. I know you agree with that as well, Alice. And he is just really a breath of fresh air. So I really hope he's able to at least get some sort of role or something, because he worked really hard. But I think the main conversation in quali was whether the red flag, I think it was for Stroll. It was for Stroll crashing. Went out early enough. So
I did see this discourse.
So this was during the last few laps of Q2, I think this was. Max Verstappen was in the danger zone, and in the main conversation is between Lando and Max. Max Verstappen's in the danger zone. Lando was already safe. Stroll spins, and for a moment it looks like he's about to get going again, and then it's clear to the FIA that he can't. But that was after maybe a few, maybe a minute, maybe not even that. But during that time, Lando Norris crossed the line and set a fast lap, or set himself to be safe. And basically, they called the red flag, which then stopped Max Verstappen's lap. And he came on the radio and basically said, "Oh, why didn't they call that earlier? Because clearly they're giving the advantage to Lando and not me," is basically what he was insinuating.
Wasn't this, correct me if I'm wrong, a discourse that was already going on this weekend because of was it the sprint race where McLaren asked Oscar to give Lando the position back, and while this was already happening, this conversation was happening, there should have been a red flag or a safety car or something shown. Was it a safety car?
Yeah, it was safety car or something. And then obviously in the race as well.
Yeah, and the second they swapped positions, they immediately called the safety car, not allowing Max to make the overtake he could have made. This is obviously what I just get from Twitter.
No, definitely.
I think it was questionable, but I think there was like 1 or 2 laps in between when McLaren did the switch, when the crash happened, and when the safety car was called. Like,
yeah,
he was catching, Max was catching. Yet fair enough, like, give him an extra couple of laps and he probably would have caught. But at the end of the day, it's how racing goes. Like,
100%. And
yeah, it's happened
Neil British
before in favour of a different team.
In favour of himself as well, which he forgets about. And
to be fair, it wasn't really him that was complaining. He's been getting, I've seen a lot of like stick on Twitter of people having to go at Max Verstappen for the way he's handled himself this weekend. I think this has been the tamest I've seen Max Verstappen. I think it's been someone else in the Red Bull department that has been going, look at these graphs, look at this, look at that, everything, look at this, like this is going wrong. Like Max got out of the car in qualifying after his lap was aborted and that lot, got out of the car, like shook hands with his engineer and then walked off to his driver room, and everyone's like, oh my god, look, he's furious, he's storming, he's pushed one of it, and I'm like, where did you see that? I don't like Max things, but I will defend him in this instance.
I think a lot of the drama that is being held between Lando and Max isn't anything to do with Lando or Max.
Literally. And I think the only thing is, like, after the debate with whether that red flag should have gone out earlier or later, I was listening to 5 Live as it was going on. And obviously they're very in-depth about what they do. Very much recommend listening to them. And they were talking, Neil Spitich, who's the race director, isn't going to be looking at whether Max Verstappen can cross the line or whether Lando Norris can cross the line. He's going to call it when he needs to call it, because for a moment it looked like Lance could get going again. He got stuck, or the gears weren't working, or something happened, and then he goes, okay, now I need to call it, because for a moment he looked fine, but now it's not. And that's just the way it needs to go. He's not going to look and go, ooh, actually one of our championship contenders has just crossed the line, or one of them is just waiting. I'll wait for them to finish their lap. No, he's going to prioritise the safety of the drivers, the team's mechanics, not mechanics, but the marshals. He's not going to care about who's going to cross the line or not.
There has actually been this weekend a lot of discussion on safety, which we will get to towards during the race itself. But yes.
Sorry, just quickly, I've got my notes for the article about qualifying.
Okay.
So, Colapinto crashed in Q1, which caused the red flag, and then Stroll crashed in Q2, and then into Q3 you had
it was Alonso,
Albon, Alonso. There was definitely 5 red flags, but there was definitely another red flag somewhere. Oh, Sainz. Sainz went off in Q2 as well. So 5. 1 in Q1, 2 in Q2, 2 in Q3. Mad.
But yeah, but
and that was only qualifying.
And obviously Alex Albon's crash in qualifying. Obviously, Franco also, the team were only able to get Franco's car fixed in
Alex's
time,
crash was a bad crash.
Yeah, which is completely fair, like, especially down to the mechanics. Bearing in mind, qualifying started at 7:30 in the morning for them, and then the race was at 12:30.
They had 4 hours.
Like, you can't
fix
had 4 hours 2 cars, and if you can fix one car, that's easier to fix compared to the other. You're going to prioritise that one. I did find it very, very interesting, though. The last time both Williams cars crashed and they could only fix one, they swapped the drivers. And I don't think this is anything against Logan Sargent. I just think it speaks volumes on the talent that is Franco Colapinto. For them to go, you are very capable of scoring us points here, getting a good finishing position, and we are fine with you driving the car. You could tell Williams didn't even have to think for a second that they might have to change drivers in the cars to benefit them getting points. Which I do like this lineup between the two of them, like Alex and Franco, and it is a lineup I would quite like to keep. Obviously next season Carlos Sainz is set to join Red Bull. There are one too many rumours regarding that situation right now. But
that could be its own whole video.
Yeah, literally. Do we have anything else pre-race?
There was the shocks of the qualifying, of who qualified where in that P10. Because I read that top 10 to my dad, and he went, "What?" It was like Yuki Tsunoda. That man, he was so happy. Anyone knows that he is normally on the radio. He's giving his little bits of swears. He's normally quite angry. He was stood there and he was just smiling. He ran up to the team. They were celebrating it like they'd won. Like it was really heartfelt. Liam Lawson also smashed it. Came 5th in qualifying. Like, okay, I'll give it Esteban Ocon for Alpine. Everyone knows my sort of stances on that. But this weekend, it's becoming a little bit of a Jev. I'm not going to lie. I don't know what it is with these French drivers.
No, Esteban's the best. No, I love Esteban.
I know.
He's so great.
This year is really changing my team. I'll stop now. Race time.
Okay. Race. Yeah. Let me. Okay. Started off with formation lap. They're on the grid. Formation lap.
Oh my god.
Lance Stroll goes out during the formation lap, and they cannot. He goes out and then manages to beach himself in the gravel, and the lap's tie. Like the start of the lap is aborted. So there's a period break.
The wording. Lap aborted. This. So obviously we'll kind of try to do this chronologically.
Yeah.
Remember the wording. Lap aborted. It just said that. Flashed up a yellow flag.
Yep.
And on goes Lando Norris.
Or is this in terms of him coming out of his box to go round again? Because they explained this on Sky, and I don't know whether it's obviously because I was because mine was paused. Like I'm watching it back, so I can go back and forth. They explained this really, really well as to why this was then put under investigation. So lap was aborted. All cars during an aborted lap stay in their grid box. When the drivers are able to go, the 5 lights at the top, you know how they've got, it's not just one singular light, it's like a sequence of lights underneath it. If they are all orange, you remain. If they flash up orange with green underneath, you can go out on a formation lap.
Be careful.
Yeah. The lights very, very clearly flash up orange, which is stay stationary. And Lando Norris leaves his grid box and goes round. Ultimately, this is my thinking into this, right? In terms of the other drivers, they could all remain in their grid spots, but when Lando comes round again, they're in a bit of a pickle, because where is Lando Norris meant to go if all the cars are still lined up on the grid? So I do understand their reasoning for why they went was because Lando went, so they went, because but there was a tractor on track, and every single driver was in agreement that they would not drive on a track if there is a tractor on track again, after the situation that happened not that long ago. That instilled so much fear into people, especially after what had happened beforehand. So it was a silly mistake. I did find it very, very weird though. So if first one originally came up, Lando Norris under investigation, which fine, fair enough, because he initiated the additional formation lap that wasn't meant to happen. But then they proceeded to put the remaining top 5 under investigation, but nobody else.
I have very much an opinion about this.
I'm like,
what's your opinion?
I think every single driver that left their grid box and went round should have been under investigation, because you all disobeyed the lights, so you should have been under investigation. I understand their reasoning being Lando went round, so we went round as well. I understand that, and I believe that is a perfectly valid excuse as to why you would leave your grid box. People like Max Verstappen, for example, I do feel bad about if he was then put under investigation, because he was telling the team, why are we going? We're not meant to be going. Should I go? And his team are telling him, you need to go. You need to go. You need to get out of the grid box and go. Move. Drive.
Yeah, I think... So because that first Lando's penalty came up by himself. So basically, when I was watching it, I was like, okay, so the top 5 about that left, and then the rest of the grid kind of stayed back and were like, not sure, don't know about this, and then they went, which is kind of fine. So of my opinion, so when I saw Lando's penalty investigation coming up, my first thought was, okay, if you're going to investigate him, you have to investigate the others. That was my first thought, just out of fairness, really, just to get and kind of, I think the first 5 went away not aimlessly. There's a word for it, and I can't think of the word. And they just went because they thought it was right to do. Whereas the people who actually hesitated and were like, "Oh, actually, I'm not sure about this," I can understand why they wouldn't be under investigation, because they were like, "Okay, well, we're gonna have to go because they're gonna be coming around in a minute."
Yeah.
Which I think they had some sort of race direction as well.
Yeah, which it's going to be a case of if even if one of them goes round, they're all kind of have to go and gonna have to go round, because the only way you can get that driver back through safely is that. I just think it was just an irresponsible move. I don't think any of them deserved to be disqualified, and I do think the penalty they were given was...
I don't even know if it was, like, irresponsible. Because I think they just didn't know.
Yeah, which, to be fair, if you've never been at the front of a grid and these lights flash up, like, if you're just acting on instinct, this is the thing, it's because we talk so much about how these drivers have insane reaction times, and I think this is just one of those cases where lights are flashed up, instant go, like, you know, without thinking too much into it, whereas I believe they probably should have waited for the call from the radio saying, you should go.
Exactly. Well, I don't think, like, Lando even, like, heard anything from McLaren. I'm guessing not. I haven't listened. That's just my assumption. I'm guessing he just went. And I think the thing is, even, like, Sky was saying, this is so unprecedented. Nobody knew. And I
great area in the rule books.
100%. And that's why I was like, okay, if this had happened before and they've done this, you know, whether they've done the same thing again or this has happened again and similar situation, I would say, okay, fair enough, give them a penalty. But giving them the fine and a reprimand, I think personally is the right thing to do, because no one actually knew what the hell to do.
I think that was the correct decision to make from the FIA. Do I think sometimes the FIA made some iffy decision this weekend? Yes, but do I think the FIA was on their ball a bit more this weekend? I think so. I think the FIA made much better decisions this weekend than we have seen in quite a few races. Like, obviously Lando and Max fans are going to disagree with that, and that's perfectly fine, because there are things that affected their drivers in so many different ways. But I do genuinely believe that, you know, the FIA were pretty much spot on with their investigations and the penalties and stuff that followed. I think it was pretty rule booky for once. There's no rule book breaking, which is bizarre.
I mean, like, the thing is it doesn't even say it in the rule book.
Yeah.
Penalty to be given. So that's why I was like, okay, I'm going to say fair enough.
And I can see why some people were a bit they questioned it a little bit, because it's not in the rule book, it's never been done before, but then the FIA turns around and go, well, we'll decide it after the race.
Yeah, fair.
It's like, okay, so then what are you going to decide? Are you going to decide the severity? Because if Lando went on and won, how would you do it then? Would you disqualify him? Would it still be the fine? But because he only came sixth, I think it was it sixth?
Yeah.
It was like, oh, fine. But do you know what? I think I saw a lot of people on Twitter questioning it, saying, I hope that the race outcome doesn't determine the penalty.
I don't think it would have. I genuinely think I think their reason. I don't think they should have tried to decide it before the race, because I think it was an incident where they physically had to speak to the drivers before making the decision on, you know, the depth of it, rather than just going, oh, here you go, have a reprimand.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can't really reprimand someone without talking to them, is my view on the situation. A reprimand's basically just a telling off. How do you tell a guy off when you can't actually tell the guy off in the steward's office?
Naughty.
Yeah. Eventually that cleared up, though. Everything would seem swimmingly then going into the, you know, final formation lap before the race, except Mercedes thought it was a good idea to start touching some tyres and dealing with some pressure changes on both of their cars.
Again, Sky explained this actually really well. So basically, there's a regulation that says that they have to actually change the tyre pressure on the tyres when before they put it on the car. That's what the regulation says, that it has to be done before they put it on the car. But, so the reasoning, again, obviously this was under investigation, the reasoning that they never got a actual sporting penalty for it is because of the amount of time they had between going to the grid and getting going again. So their reasoning was like, oh, well, you couldn't do it in the time that was actually stated, or actually do it off the car, which I think is actually really responsible that they took into consideration the situation.
This is what I mean. The FIA, for some reason, I don't know what it is this weekend, feels like they have actually had a thought process behind their penalties and their investigations and everything. It just doesn't normally feel like that. Race started though, and it pains me to say this, but once again Lando Norris did lose the lead before the end of the first lap. I think this is becoming so reoccurring now that it doesn't come as a surprise. He had a great start. He came off the line, like came out of his box, across the line, started that race quite quickly. Like he was on the speed and everything like that. George Russell had probably the same kind of start as him. It wasn't like the most fantastic start in the world, but he was able to just position his car better and get ahead, and was able to lead out into the race for quite a period of time. Actually, he was leading. It wasn't until Lando then later overtook. Lando led the race for like a couple of laps, and then they decided to pit. And then the pit drama happened. And this is the thing is that I'm seeing a lot on the internet right now, is a lot of people are saying McLaren screwed Lando over in the race by getting him to pit, which is so wrong. Yes, pitting was a stupid decision because it was inevitable that there was going to be a safety car or something anyway. We just had a virtual safety car. If it's a virtual safety car, it's not going to last as long as a safety car. Like, you should have, maybe took that into consideration a bit more. But Lando tried to get a pit stop earlier than when McLaren pitted him. Lando was asking for a pit stop when Charles pitted, and that was like 3 laps before he even pitted. And he would have come out in a lot of traffic. I think McLaren didn't really screw up his race on that accord. If anything, they saved him partially from having a worse race by telling him, no, we are not pitting. Because he was very adamant that he was going to pit. He was like, we need to pit, we need to pit, we need to pit. And McLaren were like, no, we don't. We're not pitting.
I think he was really... Well, it's quite often lately we've been seeing more an angry Lando, maybe being more frustrated at a situation or whatever. I listened to his post-race interview, obviously him speaking to Natalie, and he's actually like, these things happen. Some people have better luck. Hindsight is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
As I always say in motorsport, once you look back at it, you think about what you should have done. But he, even he said like, I probably should have made a different decision, and that's just the way things go sometimes.
And obviously, in the end, after they pitted, Lando ended up with the net lead, essentially the net lead, with Max Verstappen, Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly in front of him. And he essentially, because the 3 of those hadn't pitted, he had the net lead. Am I right in saying, this is one thing, I haven't actually looked back on this, but like there's like a piece in my brain here that's telling me that this is correct. During a wet race, there is no mandatory pit stop. Okay, cool. I'm correct. So when they were chatting up about mandatory pit stops, I was like, no, net leads. They were talking about net leads and stuff. I was like, I'm pretty sure they don't even have to pit, so it's not really a net lead.
I think you are right, but I feel like also you're right. I heard conversations about mandatory pit stops, but I don't think you do, because of obviously, if you remember Istanbul, and they ran the tyres basically down slicks.
Yeah.
I don't think you do.
Yeah, because the mandatory pit stop becomes very, very difficult as a conversation when it comes to wet racing, because you only have the inters and the wet. And if the race never gets to wets level, then you can only drive on the inters. You can't really be pulling out slicks here, to make that mandatory, like technically the mandatory pit stop.
It says the rule does not apply to races where drivers use intermediate or wet weather tyres, effectively wet races. Drivers can complete the entire race without making their mandatory pit stop. But if it's a dry one, they have to use 2 compounds of tyres.
See, this is what I was thinking, which is why I was really flabbergasted when they were talking about Lando Norris having the net lead, because there's no such thing as a net lead in a wet race. Because if you are leading the race, you can very much just win the race from where you are, because it's a wet race. You don't have to pit. You don't have to take into consideration pitting times or anything like that, because you can start to finish race on those tyres. So it was very, very weird. And obviously then, was it safety car first, then red flag? or something like that, or red, just straight up red
it was
flagged?
basically like an immediate red flag because it was Franco's crash.
Was it Franco's crash?
Pretty sure it was.
There were so many
'Cause-
crashes.
No, there was a safety car because of a crash, and then it was a safety car because of a virtual safety car, maybe. No. All right, hold on. Let me just.
Either
I think
way,
there was
red flag.
It was Franco's crash, and then basically immediately the red flag went out, and we didn't even know why. And then we saw Franco's car, and we were like,
Do you know what? I texted
and
Celeste
then
the entire time through the race, so I have the exact schedule of occurrences via text.
But yeah, you can't predict a red flag like that. And I understand that Ocon, Gasly, and Verstappen got an advantage because of that, which obviously gave a disadvantage to Lando and George. You can't predict that, and these things just happen. Yes, the whole mandatory stop thing, but that's not a thing in the race.
Yeah. So ahead of this, between this Franco Colapinto crash, was the Ollie Behrman rear-ending Franco Colapinto and then getting an unnecessary 10-second time penalty for it because Franco's car was able to continue on perfectly normal. I do not understand why a 10-second penalty was given for that incident.
He literally went, why?
Like, Ollie lost the positions, Ollie lost the places, Ollie's car was the one that was damaged. Should he have rear-ended him? No. Should it have been a 10-second penalty? Also, no. That was probably the FIA's main mistake of the whole weekend, was that.
If it was a 5-second, I could be like, fair enough. But 10-second was a bit dramatic, because you get 10-second if you put someone out of a race.
Sorry, I messaged George in all caps, so that was the overtake, like the into turn 1. And then I went, goated, oh no, Max and Lewis are fighting, and then went, oh my god, holy Max. Oh no, it was Paris, never mind.
Holy Max.
But yeah, so not only was that Ollie Franco Colapinto rear-ending situation before then, the whichever Haas driver issue it was. I'm yelling. Yelling. Max is having a crazy race, man. I have to respect it.
So true.
Oh, and then I got Ollie's radio. It said time for Charlie to defend, because I'm pretty sure Max was on his ass at that point. And then, oh, yellow, Lewis. So this must have been when Lewis went off, because Lewis's mistakes this weekend, I was shook as by, I won't lie.
The thing is, he was like, oh, the car's like undrivable, and I'm not gonna lie, like,
it was.
I do kind of believe him.
It was completely undrivable. I don't know why they gave the pensioners on the grid, like the really bad bouncy cars, all weekend.
No, they're pulled back.
Oh, and then I went beautiful Franco, beautiful. So this must have been when Franco overtook Lewis.
None of the cars were porpoising this weekend. You know that, right?
They were.
I know you don't know. You don't know this because you didn't watch the other sessions. The cars weren't porpoising. It was the track. The track was that bouncy. It's because basically they resurfaced the track and did such a terrible job of it that it was literally damaging the cars and the drivers. So basically they're taking this into consideration and they're having conversations with the people who basically laid the track, and they're going to need to basically redo it for next year already.
Oh yeah, so I went Charlie pitting, and then 1 minute later I said Lando and McLaren arguing, ha 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 ha. So this must have been when Lando was saying we need to pit, and McLaren were going, we're not pitting, and Lando was going, no, we are pitting. So then 3 minutes after that, I went yellow, oh Hulk, that's so beached. Because that's then when he beached his car. And then the marshals helped push it out, and then he drove off.
And he drove off.
He got disqualified for that, by the way.
Yeah, which is fair.
Should, because rule number 1, when someone else touches your car, you no more drive. No more driving. Oh, and they started complaining about the rain being ridiculous. Okay. So, the safety car must have, like, the red flag must still not be out, because
the safety
I said that's so beached. Virtual safety car. So that was when the virtual safety car came out, was for that. And then I said the rain is ridiculous 4 minutes later, right? Yeah. And then I went, and Celeste goes, yeah, this is where it gets heavy. And I said, very. And then I go, George and Lando are hanging out together. So cute. In the same minute that I said George and Lando are hanging out so cute, I said not cute. Lando, what the frick? Because this is one thing I'm very concerned about. I know I said, oh my god, the EP was so good this weekend. This I was really confused about. The way Lando rejoined that track was not safe. He almost drove into the side of George.
I don't remember that incident, but I also remember at one point me being like, oh, that rejoin wasn't very safe.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was for Lando. I thought that was for someone else, but maybe it was Lando.
So, obviously, was it Lando was ahead, and then I think he went, like, ahead of George, and I'm pretty sure he went off slightly, so George continued going straight up. Lando rejoined the track sideways on with him like this, so they were like literally like this and almost crashed into each other, and then Lando basically had to yield, and I think the fact that Lando yielded and let George keep the position was the reason why he didn't go under investigation, but it was very, very unsafe. And Celeste like agreed with me the fact that that was an unsafe race, because I was like, I don't know whether I'm just seeing it this way because that's my driver that's had a car almost crash into him or what. And then immediately after that unsafe rejoin, there was the safety car. And I said, do I need to watch the safety car? And then I started going, Franco, no, my son. So
I think that Franco
and then it was red flagged 1 minute after I sent that, because I said, can I skip through the red flag? And she said, yes, it's only Hulky getting disqualified.
The safety car was called on lap 30 because of the weather conditions. And then Colapinto crashed on lap 32.
Yeah, so basically Franco had come out of the pit, fresh tyres, and just straight into the wall. Mm-hmm. And it was, it was a tough crash.
I don't think
really destroyed the car.
Like, watching it, I don't think there's anything he could have done to stop that from happening.
It's because the issue is that they don't get tyre warmers for wet and intermediate tyres. And even Lewis Hamilton said that to Stefano Domenicali.
Yeah.
In the middle of the previous qualifying.
But I saw this minor discourse on Twitter. Most of my F1 has been on through Twitter this weekend because I've been working. I need to catch up one way or another. Is that someone said, like, Franco, this is your way of, like, this is how you end up unemployed.
The man's unemployed anyway. It's not a part of life.
Because like it was directed towards the fact that obviously the rumours regarding the Red Bull seat, whether that is via Carlos Sainz or Franco Colapinto, it's one way or another, whichever way that is, but every single, like, most of his crashes across this weekend or incidents has been nothing to do with him driving. It's been down to the car and the fact that Alex Albon made the exact same crash in qualifying that Franco did in the race is just proof that it's got to be something to do with a mix of the weather, the track, and that car.
Well, that's the thing is, I saw a lot of shit about Ollie Behrman. Someone was like, "Oh, and that man's supposed to be racing next year." It's the first time
I swear to God
this car at this track in a wet condition. Like, none of them have had a wet race in a one car. So they're bound to make a mistake. Yes, their mistakes led to them being in the wall and crashing and penalties, but you've got to give, at least they're doing it now when they have, per se, a warm-up season to do it, where it's not affecting their drive. Let them crash. That sounds horrible.
May I say, also, I don't know if anybody saw this from poor little Ollie Behrman, and he said on the radio, like, oh, I'm just trying to, like, stay alive. I'm trying not to die right now.
Yeah. My main aim is to stay alive.
If I were Haas, I would have pitted him straight away.
Yeah.
And go, okay, either we're going to change your tyres or you're just going to retire. Because I'm not being funny. I would way rather him be safe than him literally be scared for his entire life out there.
Yeah. This man
that was just
woken
insane.
up Friday morning to a phone call saying, we need you in the car this weekend. And he's gone out, hopped into a car, done his first ever wet sessions in a Formula 1 car, and has spent the entire time fearing for his life the whole way through it. Because he's had no mental preparation for this. He was not prepared to be going into a car. And all of a sudden, he's in, like, the worst conditions hoping that he can even finish the race. Like, let the man breathe. He's a 19-year-old child.
I think people forget about that.
Yeah, like, these are children, okay? It's just, you know.
And I think the main thing for the rest of the race was actually Max Verstappen.
You missed, yeah, I was going to say, you missed a Ferrari spinning. You spin and my head.
Yeah, I'm not surprised I missed that.
Yeah, spun off, tapped the wall, thought he could get it going, couldn't get it going, had to be craned off.
Peak for cars.
My dad went,
peak for Ferrari in that WDC.
Yeah.
WDC? WCC.
There's a Ferrari that's crashed. I was like, oh, it's fine. It's just signs in a wall. And he was like, how did you know? I went, I don't know. I just guessed.
Just an intuition.
My mum had a mild panic because she was like, I was like, oh my god, there's a Ferrari spinning. She's like, what? No. She was like, is it Charles? Oh, it's Charles, isn't it? And they were like, it's Carlos Sainz. She was like, yay!
Yeah, I think the only other thing to talk about from F1 was actually how insane Max was this weekend. And
he was incredible. And I don't say that much about drivers.
I don't forget about Alfie.
No, we'll get there in the end. Like, that Max Verstappen was the driver of the day. Like, that, like,
oh, yeah.
He went from 17th to 1st.
I
think it was, like, genuinely, that did take my breath away. And you know, I will always, you know, I may not be the biggest fan of Max Verstappen, but you have to actually give him credit for what happened this weekend because he was insane. There were a lot of things to stop him, and he absolutely did a mega job.
His Sunday racecraft was exceptional. I made the joke to Celeste that I feel like after qualifying, he sat in his driver's room and sat and watched, like, Lewis Hamilton's Brazil, like, win to figure out how to go from last to first, because so many of his overtakes were at the exact same place in the exact same positioning as when Lewis did it. And when I was watching it, I was genuinely like, it feels so nice to just see a driver going out there, overtaking and fighting for something, as opposed to, like, because, like, love George and everything like that. His and Lando's fight was so boring because it was just literally Lando following him around the whole time. So it was nice to then be able to pan back and see a driver constantly fighting for something and overtaking and making such nice overtakes as well. And I would have loved to have seen Max and Charles's battle a bit more if Ferrari didn't pick Charles.
I think also, like, Ferrari, Ollie Behrman was even saying during the red flag on the Saturday that he was just sat watching Max Verstappen's race, not the previous few years when he was just overtaking loads of people in the wet. And I was saying to my dad was like, oh, you know, Max qualified badly, blah, blah, blah. You know, let's hopefully he won't be as good in the wet. And I'm, Dad, Max is insane in the wet. He used to drive around in his karts in slick tires in the wet. He knows how to do it.
Yeah. And he proved that, because, like, there's been a lot of talk on Max Verstappen falling off, you know,
style,
and just like how he's been so bad this season. He had such a great start and he's just gone to shit, and he's obviously had such a drought without winning anything this season. So, like, Brazil, I will tell you, it felt nice to see a driver celebrate a win. Because I feel like so recently you don't get that as much. And, like, especially with Max, obviously he won so much last season and the beginning of this season. And I think after a while, when you do just constantly win and you don't have to do much to get those wins, it can probably get a bit boring even for the most competitive person. So for him, like, actually being able to watch a driver celebrate a win, like, the celebrations this weekend were, like, it was lovely. I think Lewis Hamilton commenting on Max's Instagram and being like, you know, mega race, congratulations, is so wholesome, because if you'd have told us that in 2021 that was going to occur, I don't think anyone would have believed a word that came out of your mouth. But yeah, 17th to 1st. Incredible.
Katie? Do you want to get us started?
No.
Without crying?
No. Alpine got a second and a third in this race. But if you had told me when I went into the start of the Brazil race weekend that Pierre Gasly would be on the podium, I would have laughed in your face. If you'd have told me that Alpine would have 2 people on the podium, I would have called you delusional. Big time. But it happened. And I know I said it earlier on that me and Esteban Ocon, I have beef with Esteban Ocon for some reason. Don't actually know the reason. Just didn't. We met him in Le Mans. It was lovely. Like, as he was walking past, it was lovely. Took photos. And, yeah, he got second place. Pierre Gasly came third. I think war is over on the Alpine front for now. Might be like a bit of a Christmas Day, World War One. We'll stop shooting each other for a day. Kill each other again later on. But yeah, their Instagram, no, not their Instagram, they were interviewed by Canal in the media pen, and both of them were just like singing each other's praise throughout their entire interview. And it was like saying about how they grew up in this, like, around the same area in Normandy, like they shared podiums in karts. I know Esteban said that he was thinking about it on the last lap, going around, like, oh my god, like, we're going to get a podium, us two from Normandy, we're going to get our podium together. But Alpine, their celebrations, I agree with what Alice said, it was the happiest podium that I've seen in a while. Like, all 3 of them had, like, massive grins on their faces. They were all celebrating with each other, all spraying. Max, like, when Esteban and Pierre walked into the media, like the cool-down room, he was just grinning at the 2 of them. He was sat in his first place chair just grinning as they walked in.
I think it was just so special, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think they've had such a, like, you know, no offense to Alpine, I love them all. They've had a really horrible year. They've been terrible. They've been absolutely awful. And to see them actually have some success was so nice, so refreshing. I'm so happy for them. And it was a £50 million race.
Yeah, it's moved them up from, I think they were 8th, weren't they? Or
they were
9th. They were 9th.
They were 9th, and now they're 6th.
They're not going to catch to 5th, and it's still very tight between 6th, 7th, and 8th.
That's but they've £50 million.
Yeah,
that makes a difference.
Insane job. So yeah.
I would like to applaud Oliver Oakes as well.
Oh, that
because he goes from high tech to Alpine. He's only been there for a few months.
Yeah,
and he's already got the team a podium. I know. It was luck, and I know it's an insane circumstance, but to even be able to do that with a team that just really have not found their love for the sport this year.
My conspiracy theory is that Alpine turned up to COCO with an orange livery, and now 2 races later have got a double podium. So they
are the McLaren.
They've gone, pinch, and take something McLaren.
Oh my god, are we going to have another Spygate situation? Spygate 2024?
It was me. I did it.
Yeah, I think that's everything for F1 this weekend. The winners won big and the losers lost big.
Yeah.
And everyone in the middle, I think, were pretty easily forgotten about. And I hope Fernando Alonso takes time to recover from this weekend, because that man
I think Ollie Derman and
so
Colapinto are okay.
Yeah, like Fernando Alonso looked very unwell when he got out of that car. So I hope he does genuinely take time out to recover and not, you know.
We may call him grandpa, we may call him old, but genuinely,
I hope he takes time to recover, because like he needs the recovery time after that. And I do think I do very much like the fact that he came onto the radio and said, look guys, I am hurting, my back really hurts, this is not normal, but I want to finish this race for you, because after everything they've been through this weekend, they needed at least a small win, and at that point finishing a race is a small win. Yeah, that's everything for F1.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. But everyone wasn't the only car racing that saw, you know, any big winners and big losers. The World Endurance Championship saw its commencement of the 2024 season, so it won't be back until next year. I think it's March, one of the two. I think it's March. Pretty sure it's around my birthday. I actually didn't watch any of WEC this weekend, which is really upsetting because I've watched most of WEC this season. But work said no. I contemplated watching the last hour, but I did not want to be in a bad mood for Strictly if things didn't happen. So, like, I have basically no points on WEC apart from the first one being I didn't watch. But end of season, we already knew Hertz Giotta, the number 12, was the World Cup champion. That was decided prior to this weekend. Toyota once again won the Manufacturers Championship, just by 2 points they won. Porsche took the Drivers' Championship, which is the first time in I think since 2017, 2018 that Toyota haven't.
And this makes Andre Lotterer one of, I think, 2 drivers, or the only one, to have won a World Drivers' Championship with 2 different teams.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're correct. I know Ewan tweeted something about it. I fucking love Ewan.
When I was watching it, they mentioned it on commentary, so...
Yeah. The race actually finished with Toyota on the top spot, the number 8, not the number 7. The number 7 crashed out. And took them out of the championship contention for the drivers. It's been, it's always been them that's won the drivers, and this is the first year they haven't in quite a while, because of that. The number 51 Ferrari finished second in the race, and the number 5 Porsche finished third, and then was promoted to second after the race was over. Because the number 51 got a penalty because of a tyre allocation issue. Demoted them to about, I think it was P14 or something like that, because they got a 4-minute 55-second penalty for the tyre allocation problem.
Sorry. That's so specific.
Yeah.
This is why we love that.
Yeah, but the 51 had incredible pace. They were leading for quite a while. And, I was expecting them to win it. I would have been happy with the 51 winning the race if the Porsche came second. And it wasn't the Toyota in second. But yeah, to be fair, for Porsche to finish even winning the Drivers' Championship was incredible because they had a terrible qualifying. Toyota's qualified P1 and P2, and the Porsches qualified P6 and P7. So finishing second, I'd take that as a win. Winning the Drivers' Championship, take it as a win. Yeah. Manufacturers is ours next year. WEC, learn how to bop correctly, because why are Toyota still winning the Manufacturers? You're not bopping. Thank you. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. That was everything I have on WEC. Anything you would like to add, Neil?
No. No. I was gonna read the results from the MotoGP app on my phone and realised I actually just deleted it so I could try and sort out part of the stuff on my phone.
Oh yeah.
But luckily I can read from the app, the website.
The website?
The website, yes. So yeah, MotoGP was at Malaysia in Sepang this weekend. Really early racing, so there was no way that I was going to be waking up for that. But it seemed really like such a chaotic weekend. We'll start with the Moto3 race result. David Alonso obviously won the race again. He's just had an insane season. I can't wait to watch him in Moto2 next year already. Taio Filisato came P2, and Jose Antonio Rueda, I'm pretty sure that's still his name. I literally forgot a minute then. Came P3, and Quadrants, Ivan Ortola came P4 as well. So really, really good weekend for David Alonso. Again, he's just such an insane season. Unfortunately,
because we didn't do a podcast for last weekend, but he took the record last weekend, didn't he, for most wins in the season?
I swear we spoke about this.
Huh?
I swear we spoke about this because he did the whole Valentino Rossi thing, didn't he?
Yeah, that wasn't the weekend he broke the record. He
Um,
broke the record last weekend, and he had this like massive poster with a photo from every single one of his like race wins from the season. And then because it was the Thai Grand Prix, wasn't it? He had a question mark on the Thai Grand Prix one, so he took it up on the podium with him because he won it, and he was like, "Look, broken the record."
Aww.
It was really sweet.
But I think I can't wait to watch him in Moto2, and I am almost 100% sure MotoGP one day. Unfortunately, the Brit Scott Ogden crashed out of the race, just did not have a good weekend overall. But another Brit, which in Eddie O'Shea came P16, one space outside of the points, but considering he's had a decent season so far. In Moto2, Celestino Vietti had the race win, which CHELLE. But he's had a really interesting year. It's been quite inconsistent. Considering he's the type of person who really wants to be fighting for that championship, I don't think he was up there that much this year. With obviously Iogura has won the championship now. Jorge Navarro came at P2, who I'm pretty sure is in for Joe Roberts. So the fact he managed to come P2 after being a sub is amazing. And Isan Gravari in P3 with Jake Dixon in P4. Really, again, consistent from Isan and Jake. I'm pretty sure Iogura crashed out. Yeah, he did. He won the championship like last weekend.
Yeah, in Thailand.
But now he's like, I don't really care. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And MotoGP. So we rewatched this just before filming this. We gave it a bit of a watch. So we're like, what the hell?
A very
I'm in that race.
Watch there as well.
Yeah, we were very much analysing kind of what happened because I'm huge on MotoGP safety, and unfortunately, there isn't too much you can do. But we just wanted to watch back to kind of see what happened to Jack Miller.
My thing
basically,
I can watch any other crash, but for some reason that crash just makes my stomach turn.
It's not a nice one. Let's just say that. So in lap 1, on the original start of the race, Brad Binder, Fabio Quartararo, and Jack Miller had a crash, and they were basically 3 going into the apex, basically all together, where Brad crashed into. Brad crashed into Fabio, who then crashed into Jack.
And then
Jack came off his bike.
Jack swung up.
Jack
swung up. And...
Jack swung up, basically in front of then Fabio's bike. Fabio's bike. I'm going to say I'm so surprised that Jack is okay.
Yeah.
Which he is, just to make that very clear. But he basically had his head kind of stuck between the tyre and the wheel arch. If you see any image from it, we won't include it because it's basically grim. His head's basically facing the wrong way to his body, which is not nice, obviously. Fabio ended up crashing out. Brad ended up crashing out as well, which caused a red flag. Brad and Fabio kept going after the red flag happened on the restart, but obviously Jack was taken to the medical centre getting some tests, and surprisingly he's actually okay.
I think
because that was such a horrible incident.
Because I hadn't seen the race when I went into work, and my colleague's husband watches MotoGP. I said, "Oh, did he get up and watch the race?" She was like, "Yeah. Did you see there was a big crash?" I was like, "I haven't seen it, but like, really?" She was like, "Yeah, it was like proper horrible." And we were talking about how we always find it so fascinating that these riders can get in such horrific crashes and they'll just roll over, stand up and walk away. Mm-hmm. And I think that just comes down so much to how safe their like kit is. And
it's trying to be anyway.
Yeah. But like if it like it's there's always room for improvement when it comes to these kinds of things, and like they'll always be able to make the kit slightly safer, bit by bit. But I think with how safe that kit is, like I'm very, very glad that it was as safe as it was, especially for this
100%. I think the issue is that it's usually those kind of incidents, or incidents like we saw with Marquis CHELLE or Jason DeBasca. Those are the kind of incidents that you actually it's so horrible, and it really hurts my soul that there's almost nothing that can be done to improve that. When a rider gets run over, there isn't much that can be done, and it's something that will literally turn my blood cold, because we've seen these incidents before, and especially even when it comes to the helmet, there isn't much more that can be. I mean, there is much more to be done that makes it safe, but in an incident like that, when you're having that much pressure, it's so difficult to make it that much safer, but also usable, like even just to ride with it, and lightweight and everything like that. I mean, the main conversation that I said that the first one that needs to be happening next is the concussion protocol in MotoGP, because it's non-existent and it's horrific. So if we can work on that and then go further from that, maybe something will be found. But yeah, I think we're very lucky that Jack Miller is completely fine. But maybe to go on to more positive stuff, because that was very dark for a moment there. You want to go on about Fabio? I want to go on about Alex Marquez.
Sorry. Yeah. Well, I feel like Fabio's matches quite well onto the end of this, because as we said, Fabio Quartararo involved in that crash. He came off his bike. He went flying across the track, like. And we all know what Fabio's race finishes have been like this season. If you've been watching or keeping up with MotoGP, you know what Fabio's race results have been like this season. They have been...
Yamaha's results.
Yeah, they have been poor, because it's like he's riding a scooter in a motorbike race. Like, like, change teams. If you are listening to this, Fabio Quartararo, change teams.
Change manufacturer. Yamaha is not going to save you.
Yeah, so Orisha was already like, pop off, decent qualifying, woo. And then I was like, oh no, crash. Oh no. And then it was like, oh, Fabio's back on a bike. Oh, why are you on a bike? Why are you on a bike? Why are you on a bike? And I expected, it to go downhill. The man finished 6th. Okay? I know some people are like, okay, he finished 6th. The man on a scooter and a motorbike race that just got involved in probably one of the biggest crashes we've seen so far this season, finished 6th.
We love him. I'm so proud of him. I'm so happy for him.
Ducati and watch him fly.
I would kill to see that. I honestly would.
Fabio,
because
please.
If we think back to his championship win, like, he just absolutely, honestly, I think about it and I'm like, is this the same bike? Because obviously I know it's not, but it's like, how did he go from that to this? And I know it's not him. That's one thing I know for absolute certain. It's not Fabio himself, but it's the bike. And honestly, it annoys me so much. But I'm so happy for him.
Yeah.
And then my Alex Marquez.
Calling it, we're winning the right.
Oh, I thought you were saying winning the next championship. No. I'll get behind that too.
Yeah, we're winning the next championship. It's going to be an Alex Marquez versus Fabio Quartararo championship in 2025.
And Mark, because he's going to Ducati.
No, not Mark. It's fine. Alex and Fabio. Well, if Mark has the same weekend as he did this weekend for the rest of the season, I'm sorry.
Hey.
She had Pierre on the podium. I'm allowed to fire shots somewhere else, okay?
But yeah, with Alex Marquez had an insane weekend, and I honestly, I woke up at 4 a.m. on Saturday. Don't know why, just did. It's like, maybe there's a reason I've woken up this early. Checked my phone. I was like, it's no GP. I'll check the qualifying results. Alex Marquez had qualified in P3. I was like, hold on, why the hell am I not watching this right now? I have never been so happy to wake up at 4 a.m. in my entire life. And I was so happy. And when I see that, I'm like, okay, that's good. But I have no hope for the race. I have absolutely no hope. Check the results on Sunday morning, and he finished P4, and I've literally never been so proud of him. I know he's not had the most ideal season. Obviously, Mark has had a really good season with Christini, and he's not had the best. I honestly sometimes think that Alex can work better on a team that Mark isn't there. I know that sounds strange, but it's just the way it is sometimes. Maybe it's just some sort of mental thing. I don't know. But he enjoys his time being on a team with Mark. But seeing, it's a shame that Mark crashed out, but seeing Alex having such a good race, at least in the second to last race in the year, I'm glad he's at least ending it almost on a positive note. And I'm just happy to see about this one.
Yeah, so I talked about Fabio's race this weekend as my number one driver. Naomi's spoken about Alex's race this weekend as her number one driver. Would you like to speak about Marc Marquez's race as he's your number one rider?
I don't know. I didn't watch it. I turned it off after the crash, so I have no fucking clue.
He was on for a podium, weren't he? And then he took a little dip in the gravel and came off his bike. And Bastianini. There we go. Bastianini took the third place on the podium after a very chaotic battle between P1 and P2.
Pecco and Forte, which the championship is now going down to the last round in Barcelona, not Valencia, because of obviously the horrible flooding they've had there.
Yeah, because obviously with Valencia's flooding, obviously the MotoGP season finale's been postponed, so that's not next weekend. After Formula E's, as we're recording this right now, it's the 4th of November, which should be commencing Formula E's pre-season testing, which we don't actually have any of the Kira drivers going into this, by the way. None of the Kira drivers have been announced going into this testing. Originally it was meant to be the 4th to the 7th, which is Monday to Thursday. It is now Tuesday 5th to Friday 8th instead, and it's being held in Madrid. It is believed that Dan Ticktum will be housing the Kiro, and he will be joined by, I believe it was David Beckman. That is not a confirmed driver for the next season, for season 11. That is just apparently he's just filling in to test the car, and after seeing how he is in the car, they might potentially hire him on. We are one weekend without racing. So we've got pre-season testing in the week, no racing at the weekend, and then we'll be back with Valencia, and then the Parc'd podcast will be back the following week as we discuss Valencia.
Did you just say Valencia?
Yeah, it's because I've got it written down as Valencia. The MotoGP season finale in Barcelona is on across the 16th, 17th, and then Las Vegas is the 23rd, 24th, because we just had a triple header in Formula 1, 2-week break, and then we have the final triple header of the season, which is Las Vegas, following weekend Qatar, following weekend Abu Dhabi, season finale. Formula 2 and F1 Academy will return for Qatar and Abu Dhabi. And Abu Dhabi weekend is the beginning of Formula E.
Woo!
Yes!
She's back. We've almost made it.
Almost made it, guys. So we will be back with another Parc'd podcast for Las Vegas and Barcelona. I've just clocked we have no videos filmed for in between that time.
It's okay.
We'll come up with something. It's okay. You guys will get something.
Maybe we just need a motorsport break.
No, wrong answer. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us this week. If you enjoy our content, if this is the first time you're listening, or you see our videos every now and then and this is your first time properly watching, or maybe you just watch every now and then, you can subscribe to the channel. It is the little button down there, and we would really, really greatly appreciate it if you would. If you did enjoy this video, you can drop it a big little thumbs up, whichever you want. If you want a big thumbs up, if you want a little thumbs up, give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Let us know down below in the comments anything. I feel like at the end of like a video we should start being like, if you watched until the end, leave this word in the comments.
Leave the word reprimand.
Reprimand. Nice one. I like that.
Topical.
If you don't want to just see us or anything we do once a week on a Friday, you can head over to our Instagram, which is parcfem_. It is also parcfem_ on TikTok, where we also post, and we also do have a Twitter, exactly the same, parcfem_. Not as much going on there, but feel free to follow. You can also head over to our website, which is parcfem.co.uk. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Ciao bella.
Hello.
Bye.